Well, how's everybody doing today? Welcome back to the Engine House. I'm your host, Candy Dancer. And after my last video, I got to thinking about the whole flocking and the leaves on these buildings that's going to happen. And one of the things I try to emphasize is, especially for those of us on a budget or for younger people getting into the hobby, is you can do some of this stuff on the cheap. You buy commercial flocking, as it's called, and a small container is gonna cost you, $10 or so. It doesn't seem like a lot, but if you can do it a little cheaper, why not, right? As I talked about the buildings, by the way, these are the ones I'm working on next. I have a coat of primer on them. These will now be for a later video. I'll be painting them, okay? But that's for later. So anyway, what we're talking about today is going to be doing the flocking thing here. I have 4 different materials here, and I'm going to stick them in the blender one by one, and we're going to see which one turns into the best flocking for modeling, okay? And it doesn't have to be perfect, it doesn't have to be, but it has to look like these sort of scale leaves. We have some fall colored flowers, and of course there is no yellow in this, so I got some daisies here at Dollar General. These are kind of almost a cloth material. Not sure how that's going to work, but they were cheap, okay? That's a couple of bucks for these. And it'll be, not a whole lot. It'll be enough flocking to do probably 2 or 3 buildings. And then I found these. These are tiny little foam sheets. These are actually foam. I got some yellow, some orange, and some red here. The orange isn't the brightest orange I would like to see on a fall color, but for what we're doing, it may do the trick. I also have some construction paper, yellow, orange, and red. Could not find any brown. There was no brown in this pack, and there was no brown in the construction paper. And also, it isn't fall yet here, but some of my leaves on the trees out back are starting to turn already for some god-awful reason. We have some yellows, we have some lighter browns, no reds really, and of course they're wet. I just picked these up this morning in the yard before I went out to mow the yard. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put each one at a time in the blender. I'm going to blend them up, and of course I'll do that off the air because that thing is loud, and it may take a few minutes. So I'll do each one at a time. We'll see the consistency of what it looks like, and after that I'll see which one is going to be the best for what I am doing, or will it be a combination. Now again, leaves, if you live in an area where you can find leaves in the early fall, would be the greatest time to find them. You're gonna, if you have that sort of thing, the maples, the oaks, the elms, your trees that are going to give you your vibrant yellows and reds and oranges and burnt umbers and all these other colors. If you can find them in the fall, they're free. Okay, so you pick them up, you can use them. I'm doing this as an experiment. Will I use them? It depends on how they turn out. I'm thinking right now my best bet is going to be construction paper or these, but we'll see. So we're going to get started. I've got a little Boston Pops playing on the radio this morning, and it's a good day. I got the lawn mowed, and now it's time to go ahead and play on the hobbies. So I'll be back in a few. We'll see what happens. We're going to start with these. So I need to get some scissors and cut these off. They're on there pretty tight, and there's plastic, which Actually, I may be able to pull those apart. Would you look at that? So I won't need scissors, but I will be, and these of course are pretty well stuck on here with plastic. I'll be cutting these off right about here and throwing the whole mess in and then weeding out the plastic chunks later. So we're going to start with these. All right, and then we'll move to the foam, this, and lastly this, and then we'll decide which one is best, or will it be a combination of 2 or 3 or all 4. Okay, back in a few. Well, I kind of halfway expected this. That was almost a complete disaster. The daisies turned into looking more like chicken feathers, and they just plain refused to. These refused to get really any closer to the blades than they had to. They kept floating up no matter how much I pushed them down. So this would be considered a failure. Okay, on to the foam. Hang on 1 second. Okay, well, the foam is a little better, as you can see, but there's big chunks, and it mostly, because of its, it's a little stretchy. I'd probably be better off putting in smaller chunks. Not really a good fit. So, on to, I have a feeling it's going to be the construction paper or the leaves. Okay, that's my bet. I could actually tear these into smaller chunks, but again, they're still going to be a little too big. I don't think the blender is going to be able to handle that. So we're going to put these aside and experiment a little more. In the meantime, onto the construction paper, right? Okay, well, that was the paper, and it was marginally better than the foam, but it would have been nicer if the red had been a little brighter red, actually. The red is kind of lame, and there's still some pretty good sized chunks in here. I ran it for quite a while, and a lot of it, of course, likes to wad up. So, I'm not really happy with the results on that. So, one last one to try, and that is, of course, the real McCoy. Let's see what happens here, okay? I suppose these, if they were a little finer and the red's a little redder, because you're looking for fall colors, and some of these, that's more pink than and the orange is there, but it's not really what I'd call fall. So I think maybe a finer blend up somehow and a brighter red would probably work better on these, or a brighter orange. But this is the orange, and this being the red is more pink than red. It should be more vibrant, in my opinion. But again, there's still some pretty good sized chunks in this. It would need to be shredded a lot finer. So let's try the leaves and see what happens, right? Okay, here we go. One more time. Well, as it turns out, the leaves, by far, they came up finer, and they did, you can see, there was a lot of yellow leaves in there, and of course some browns and greens. Of course, what I have, and there's still some chunks of foam and whatnot in here as well. You can see some of the yellow leaves in here still chewed up, and there are some pretty good sized chunks in here, as well as some smaller chunks and whatnot, but it looks closer to mulch than actual dried fall leaves. I suppose if it actually were fall, October, and I had some real fall leaves instead of what's currently in my yard that's yellowing, these would probably work all right. I mean, the consistency's there, the size is there, it's just the color is not there. Except, of course, for the yellow. You can see there were a lot of yellow leaves in there, and I'm seeing an awful lot of yellow bits and pieces. So, for my money, it's on the actual leaves. I'm in no great rush to put flocking on these and cover these up right yet. I can wait till fall. Where we live, I can find the leaves as they are a lot more vibrant and try it again. Okay, so I mean, it doesn't hurt to experiment. We gave it a shot. Construction paper's cheap, and being as construction paper is wood fiber, of course, putting it in a blender, it will try to go back to fiber. You know, so we're looking at and the colors really aren't there for the fall colors that we would like to have, or I would like to see. I mean, again, it's your world. You like what you see, that's fine. For me, I prefer a little deeper fall color than what's in this. You know, if I find a brighter red later on, I may give it another try. This was the closest to this, and again, if I had real fall colors, mostly what I had was browns and yellows and whatnot, so that's why it looks more like mulch than it does, because you can see this isn't really a red, this is a brown. So it really would be better with more vibrant colors. So for my money, it's the real leaves. The rest of this will foam definitely out. If you want to tear it in little pieces or cut it in little tiny pieces to simulate leaves, it's probably gonna work some, but again, the reds aren't really red. They're more of a pinkish red than a bright red. The yellows are okay, but again, you have to cut these into really tiny pieces, and you could probably just cut these as well, construction paper, in tiny enough pieces, and maybe they'd work just fine. I see some small stuff here that fell out here and there that would look okay. So, you know, maybe cutting this into smaller pieces and putting it in the blender and running it through just real quick. I was trying a little too hard to cut up bigger pieces, so maybe a smaller batch, or smaller pieces, I should say, should maybe work better. And if you have any ideas, leave a comment. You know, this is all about learning. It's all about figuring out what's going to be work best, and doing some stuff on the cheap, as it were, for people on a budget, and people on a fixed income like myself, or you know, young folk just starting out. You guys don't have a whole lot of money, and as I said in my last video, this stuff can get expensive in a hurry. So you know, I may try this again. I may look for a brighter red and a more that to me is more pink than red. You want a vibrant, stand out red. But I may tear these into some smaller pieces, run them through real fast so they're not trying to turn back into fiber. They are just getting little smaller pieces, and see if it turns out okay. Excuse me. But in the meantime, my money is basically on the actual leaves, if you can get them in their fall colors, and just run them through real quick and see what happens. If you can afford the commercial flocking material, then, you know, go for it. You know, this, I'm going to experiment some more, and it may end up, that may end up being the smartest way to go. But I am not above experimenting. Okay. That's all for now. Next video, I will start painting these. And by the way, I'm going to have a diamond bit for my Dremel. I have one more building I forgot that I meant to mention yesterday, and I'll bring it over right now. I had set this aside and I forgot to count it. This is, of course, what's left of a lighthouse. There is, of course, a piece here that needs to be glued back. The piers need to be glued. I believe there was probably a boat here. There was something here, and of course, this is pretty much destroyed. I'm going to take this off with a diamond bit and put something in its place. I'm going to grind this down and find something for the light and a new top. And of course, there's a lobster trap here that is plastic, and as you can see, no lobster would get caught in that. No self-respecting lobster would be caught dead in that trap. So that's going to go away. The lobster traps were not on lighthouses to start with, so that's kind of ridiculous. This will get fixed, and it will get painted, and it will be on near my water scene area for, of course, the ships. So I'll be doing something with this and something with this. This is a project for way later on as the winter approaches, or in the middle of winter, when I run out of other things to do. This is going to take a little while to get into, and I need to, of course, find the light and the roof, and I believe I know what I can use to replace this, but I need to get the diamond bit and cut this off or grind it down or something, and of course repair these. All of the posts, thankfully, are you know, the piers or pilings are there. They're just not glued. They got broke, and there will of course be something here, a new boat or something, and of course these will be painted and they'll be whatever. So anyway, that building I forgot. That's a long-term project for later. And it will be sometime over the winter before I get started on this. In the meantime, I'll be working on these. My next video, I will probably start painting the barn. So stay tuned, you know. And I hope you enjoyed this video, and you see the experiment, and it never does hurt to experiment. That's how we learn things. So that's all for today. Bye for now. Okay, well, bit of a postscript on this video here. And if I hadn't already rinsed everything out, this would be a lot better. What I went and did after I finished shooting was I went out in my yard and I picked up only the yellow leaves. And of course I had already rinsed this out so it was wet. And of course the leaves were wet from the dew. So some of them stuck down in here, as you can see, and they kind of wadded up. But as you can see, that is a lot better, okay? So my advice would be to find the leaves you want in the colors you want, and make sure they're dry, as well as your blender. And this should go without saying, don't use your significant other's blender from the kitchen. They may get very irate with you. Buy your own blender. Thrift shops have all kinds. Because this is currently a mess, and my wife would kill me if I tried to take this upstairs and put it in the sink or whatnot. And no. So, and she has a rather expensive one that does pretty much everything but cook the meal for us. So she would not be real happy if I used that. But anyway, this is a postscript on the video. It'll be coming in afterwards. So if you have access to fall leaves in the fall, get them when they're vibrant, when, you know, about peak season or whatever, if you can find them. Do them separately, I recommend. And do them dry. You know, make sure everything is dry. These would have been smaller chunks had they been able to, instead of sticking to the sides and to the bottom, these would have been a lot smaller chunks, as some of them are. You can see this would have been perfect. So that's what I recommend. Okay, this does work. And again, experimenting with different things, materials and whatnot, is how we do this. And doing it as cheaply as possible is also how some of us have to do this. So there's no harm in experimenting. Anyway, that is all for now, and I hope you enjoyed, and I hope if you have access to the trees come September, October, before the peak, and this is something you want to do as fall colors, then you can gather up what you need free of charge. And you can make your own flocking for the fall scene if you want. I'm going to let this dry, and I'm going to let that dry and this dry, and I'm going to put this in a little baggie and use it later when I get some other fall color, and I will be grinding it up again. Okay, that's pretty much it for this video. There will be no more postscripts, so bye for now.